The new season of Drive to Survive has brought a revelation that may surprise Formula One fans. In one of the scenes, Toto Wolff, Mercedes team principal, is seen discussing with his wife, Susie Wolff, the possible replacements for Lewis Hamilton, who announced his transfer to Ferrari. But what stands out the most is the promise Wolff made to the seven-time champion. He guaranteed that he would not negotiate with Max Verstappen while Hamilton was still on the team. This promise raises a series of questions. Was it a gentleman's agreement between team principal and driver, or an acknowledgement that Verstappen's presence at Mercedes could create a toxic environment for Hamilton? It's worth remembering that the rivalry between the two drivers, especially after the controversial 2021 title decision, is one of the most intense in recent F1 history. However, as soon as Hamilton's departure was confirmed, Wolff admitted that this restriction no longer existed. "I didn't talk to him because I promised Lewis that I wouldn't negotiate with him," Wolff stated, "but I'm going to talk to Max now." This suggests that Mercedes, even in a period of lower competitiveness, believes it can lure Verstappen. But is the Dutchman really interested? The answer appears in another scene from the documentary, where Wolff admits that the chances of convincing Verstappen are minimal. "It's difficult with Max. I think there's only a 1% chance of making him change his mind." The question remains, what made Mercedes believe that Verstappen would even consider such a move? With a solid contract at Red Bull, a dominant car, and an environment built around his leadership, switching from the Austrian team to Mercedes, which is struggling to return to the top, seems unlikely. Moreover, if Wolff really pursued this approach, it suggests a certain insecurity about the options available on the market. Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso were mentioned as possibilities, but does Mercedes see either of them as a true replacement for Hamilton? The documentary leaves more questions than answers, but one thing is certain. If Mercedes really made an offer to Verstappen, it reveals both its ambition and its desperation to find a leader capable of restoring the team to glory. Kimi Antonelli rejects the Hamilton Successor label at Mercedes Italian driver, says the focus for F1 2025 is avoiding mistakes, but can he really escape the comparisons? The pressure of replacing none other than Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes is a burden that Andrea Kimi Antonelli does not want to carry. The young Italian, considered one of the biggest rising stars in motorsport, has made it clear that he rejects this label and seeks to build his own identity in Formula One. However, is this disassociation really possible? Coming straight from Mercedes Junior Academy, Antonelli acknowledges the great opportunity in his hands, but prefers to focus on avoiding mistakes and building consistent pace. Could this be too conservative an approach for someone who needs to prove their worth at the elite level of the sport? I don't feel like Hamilton's replacement. I just feel like a Mercedes F1 driver. But it's a great opportunity. I'm very grateful for the trust and the opportunity they have given me. At the same time, it's an immense responsibility because I am racing for Mercedes, the best team, and they have some expectations, of course. I will try to make the most of it, Antonelli told BBC Sport. The Italian adopts a humble and cautious stance, but the reality of Formula One often demands something more aggressive. What can we expect from Antonelli in an increasingly competitive grid? Will he be prepared for the pressure of a car that, even in a rebuilding phase, still carries a victorious legacy? Antonelli admits that one of his main goals is to avoid mistakes, but this mindset could end up being a limiting factor. While avoiding errors is crucial, will the young driver also be able to take risks when needed? Recent F1 history shows that great talents stand out precisely because of their boldness in crucial moments. I really want to start with a good pace and be consistent from there. What I don't want to do is make a big mistake, because when you make a big mistake, you take a few steps back, and it takes some time to recover, Antonelli added. On one hand, this approach seems mature, but on the other, it may indicate that Antonelli is not yet ready to assume a leading role within Mercedes. F1 tolerates caution, but only up to a point. How long will it take before Antonelli has to prove he can go beyond consistency and truly compete among the best? A part of Mercedes' program since the age of 11, Antonelli will be the third youngest driver in history to start an F1 Grand Prix, behind only Max Verstappen and Lance Stroll. The young driver himself admits that he never imagined reaching F1 so soon. If you had asked me this 4 years ago, I would have said it was crazy and wouldn't happen. Maybe a bit later. If you think about it, 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I was still in karting. Of course, F1 has always been my biggest dream, but I never imagined I would get here so quickly. I'm super happy "It's a dream come true," said the Italian. But the question remains, could this meteoric rise come at a cost? F1 has seen brilliant talents fast-tracked too soon, only to crumble under pressure before reaching their full potential. Antonelli may be a rare gem, but will he have enough time to refine his talent before impatience from Mercedes in the paddock starts to weigh on him? The truth is that the expectations surrounding Antonelli go far beyond just filling Hamilton's seat. The young driver arrives in F1 with a great deal of curiosity, not just because of the Mercedes factor, but also because of the impressive career he built in the junior categories. Having won titles in almost every series he competed in, he was naturally among Toto Wolff's top candidates to partner with George Russell. However, F1 history has shown that dominating junior series does not guarantee success at the top level. Antonelli's name may be among the most promising, but F1 is a mental and adaptive battle. If he doesn't want to be labeled as merely Hamilton's successor, he will need to quickly find a way to stand out, not just for his consistency, but for his ability to win and take on the sport's biggest names. Time will tell if Kimi Antonelli can escape Hamilton's shadow and build his own legacy, or if he will become just another young talent unable to handle the weight of Formula One. Red Bull builds Dossier against Ferrari and McLaren over alleged rule violations. FIA set to investigate. The Milton Keynes team wants to prevent rivals from gaining an advantage ahead of the 2025 season, but is this strategy or desperation? Formula One has always been a game of strategy, both on and off the track. In 2024, Red Bull, accustomed to absolute dominance in recent years, saw McLaren and Ferrari disrupt their comfort zone in the Constructors' Championship. Now, having dropped to third place, the Milton Keynes-based team seems to be adopting a new tactic, playing in the FIA's courtroom before racing on the track. Max Verstappen and Liam Lawson's team has assembled a dossier accusing McLaren and Ferrari of exploiting loopholes in the FIA's technical regulations. The goal? To prevent their main rivals from gaining an advantage through alleged irregularities, something Red Bull has consistently highlighted whenever they're no longer at the top. But is this really about ensuring fair competition, or just a desperate attempt to slow down their competitors? McLaren's mini DRS and Red Bull's response? McLaren has already been in Red Bull's crosshairs. After Oscar Piastri's victory at the Azerbaijan GP, the Austrian team complained about a suspicious aerodynamic system on McLaren's rear wing, nicknamed the Mini DRS. The FIA intervened, and McLaren agreed to modify the design. However, according to Red Bull's technical director, Pierre Wache, the solution McLaren implemented still bends the rules and continues to provide illegal aerodynamic benefits in 2025. As a result, Red Bull decided to escalate the situation, compiling formal evidence to pressure the FIA. According to the Italian newspaper Funo Analisi Tecnica, the energy drink-back team is accusing not just McLaren, but also Ferrari of developing cars that violate regulations. Whether these allegations hold up remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: Red Bull is determined to shut down any early advantage from its competitors, which sounds at the very least ironic coming from a team that has spent years pushing the boundaries of what's allowed. FIA to investigate McLaren and Ferrari. Is Red Bull's pressure working? Red Bull's pressure is already yielding results. The FIA is set to conduct thorough inspections at the Woking and Maranello factories, carrying out detailed checks on the cars of Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, and Lando Norris before the Australian GP. If any irregularities are found, penalties could reshape the balance of power for the season. Moreover, the FIA has announced stricter flexibility tests from the Spanish GP onwards. This suggests that, regardless of the outcome of the investigation, the controversy has already influenced regulatory changes and tighter enforcement. But is Red Bull genuinely interested in fair play, or are they afraid that their reign is truly under threat? Ferrari claims to be calm, but should they be? Interestingly, while Red Bull moves aggressively behind the scenes, Ferrari has maintained a surprisingly composed stance. The Scuderia dismisses all accusations and insists they do not expect major issues with the FIA's technical inspections. This confidence could indicate that everything is in order, or it could be a public display to avoid internal panic. Are the Italians absolutely sure their aerodynamic solutions will pass the FIA's scrutiny, or are they simply confident that even if adjustments are required, they'll have enough time to adapt? Regardless of the findings, one thing is clear: the 2025 season is already heating up behind the scenes. Power play. Is Red Bull trying to prevent the inevitable? With McLaren and Ferrari rapidly closing the gap, Formula One may be heading toward one of its most competitive seasons in years. In such a tight battle, any advantage, whether gained on the track or in the rulebook, could be decisive in the title fight. The real question is Is Red Bull acting as a defender of fair play, or is this a team that finally feels the pressure of having real competition? History shows that dominant teams often go to great lengths to maintain their position of power. What Red Bull is doing now is no different from what Mercedes and Ferrari have done in the past. But if the dossier turns out to be baseless, could this move damage Red Bull's credibility, especially with an increasingly strict FIA? The season hasn't even started, yet the political battle is already at full throttle. Now the big question remains: will the FIA find anything concrete in its investigation, or is this just a strategic chess move to ensure Red Bull stays on top? And of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates. See you in the next video.